My boyfriend made a pros and cons list about me before we started dating, and I only found out when he gave it to me as an anniversary present. Now I'm rethinking everything. We met at a mutual friend's birthday dinner almost 2 years ago. My friend had been trying to get us in the same room for months. She'd mentioned him to me a dozen times, said he was funny, driven, the kind of guy who showed up early and stayed late. I kept brushing her off. I'd just gotten out of something bad, and I wasn't looking for anything. Then she guilted me into this birthday dinner. 12 people around a long table at an Italian place downtown. I showed up late, grabbed the only empty seat, and it happened to be right next to him. He was exactly what she'd described. Warm, effortlessly funny, the kind of person who makes everyone around him feel like the most interesting person in the room. He asked me real questions, listened to the answers, remembered details I'd mentioned 20 minutes earlier and circled back to them. By the time dessert came, I was completely gone. But I didn't say anything. I was still raw from my last relationship, and I'd gotten good at talking myself out of things. I figured he was just like that with everyone. Figured he'd forget my name by morning. He texted me 3 days later. Not a hey text, an actual message. He referenced something I'd said at dinner about a documentary I'd been wanting to watch and said he'd seen it and thought I'd love the ending. I stared at my phone for a full minute before I responded. We texted for 2 weeks before he asked me to dinner. Just the two of us this time. Same restaurant, actually. The Italian place where we met. I didn't know if that was intentional. I still don't know. I never asked. Dinner lasted 4 hours. We closed the place down. The waiter came to our table 3 times to let us know they were setting up for the next day. We apologized every time and kept talking. He walked me to my car, and when we said goodnight, he hugged me for a long time. Not awkward, just warm, like he meant it. I drove home and immediately called my friend and told her she was right. We moved fast after that. By month 2, he was having dinner with my parents on a Sunday. My dad, who doesn't warm up to anyone easily, was laughing at his stories by the end of the first hour. My mom pulled me into the kitchen to do dishes and whispered, "Keep this one," like she was passing me a secret. By month 4, he had a drawer at my apartment. By month 8, we had signed a lease together. It wasn't reckless. It just made sense. Every step felt obvious, like we were just confirming something we both already knew. Our 1-year anniversary was this past Saturday. He made reservations at the Italian place. Of course he did. I wore the same dress I'd worn to that birthday dinner because I thought it would make him laugh. It did. The dinner was perfect. Long and slow and full of the kind of conversation that makes you forget your phone is in your purse. He ordered the same thing he'd ordered on our first real date. I don't even think he remembered doing it until I pointed it out. We sat there until they started turning off lights in the back of the restaurant. When the check came, he reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and pulled out a small envelope, cream-colored, my name written on the front in his handwriting. "I've been holding on to this for a year," he said. "I wasn't sure if I was ever going to give it to you, but I think you should see it." I looked at him. He was nervous. I could tell because he was smiling too much. He only smiles like that when he's nervous. I opened the envelope. Inside was a folded piece of paper, lined notebook paper, like something torn from a journal. His handwriting, smaller than usual, like he was being careful. At the top it said, "Should I actually do this?" Below that, 2 columns. Pros, genuinely one of the smartest people I've met. Laughs at her own jokes. Calls her mom every Sunday without being asked. Notices when people around her need something before they ask. Makes me want to talk about things I usually don't talk about. Makes me want to be more than I currently am. I stopped. Read that last line again. Then I looked at the cons column. Too sharp. Will see through me eventually. Has her life together in ways I'm still catching up to. Deserves someone without all my baggage. Going to figure out I'm not enough and leave. Probably out of my league. Definitely out of my league. Every single con was about him. Not one word about me. He'd been so terrified of not being enough for me that he'd written it all down before he even asked me to dinner. He'd made a list not to evaluate whether I was worth his time, but to talk himself into believing he was worth mine. I folded the paper. I looked up at him. He was still doing the nervous smile. I didn't say anything for a long moment. I didn't know what to say. There was nothing that felt big enough, so I just reached across the table and grabbed his hand, and I held it until the last light in the restaurant turned off.